gosh. Hey, aloha, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin for Peace podcast. I have two super queen goddesses who are on a mission to make the world a better place with wellness, with real estate, with homeschooling, with bringing women together. I am so honored and delighted to welcome Tali Lindberg and Amanda. I'm going to let you guys kind of introduce yourself because I've got all of your accomplishments here. And I know Mercedes is going to be joining us here in a minute, but I want the world to know who you are, what you're up to, and why women need to have wellness retreats. Tali, why don't you go first?
Okay, really quick. My name is Tali, and I am the host of the Orange Hatter podcast. That sort of started my whole journey spreading Bitcoin to fellow women everywhere. And since I started the podcast, I'm almost at 100 episodes. I'm like 2 or 3 shy. So excited, and just having the best time talking to Bitcoiner women in this space, sharing their stories. From there, we started talking about a get together for women to really support each other and develop deep friendships. So not so much in passing, if we see each other in conferences, but really developing deep friendship. And so the topic came up. I'm like, let's just do it. Let's just find a place. Let's do it. So I started putting feelers out, and somehow I got introduced to Amanda, and she started telling me about this magical place called Merida. And I was like, what is this place? I don't know. And from there, our retreat was birthed. And then I met Valerie in El Salvador. We started talking more about the retreat. There was so much excitement from the women that we have met and talked about it with. And it grew from there. And that brings us to this moment. So,
Yay, awesome. Welcome, Tali. Hey, Mercedes, we're just getting started. Can you hear us?
Yes, hi. I've been searching for you and waiting for you in other link, apparently. Yes.
Sorry, I know the link was a mess. So now we're here, and I apologize for that.
Good to
But
see you finally.
welcome. We're just saying hello and introducing you and Amanda and Tali. So Mercedes, do you want to go next, and then we'll have Amanda come up after and just talk about who you are, how well, just a little quick intro, and then we're gonna go, and I'm gonna go deeper into why do Bitcoin ladies need wellness retreats.
Yes.
So welcome, Mercedes.
Well, living here in Yucatan, I would like to invite you all to come and check for yourselves this marvelous place. I think every corner on earth is beautiful, but here we have very special things. The remnants of a very important civilization, the Maya culture. And you can still see all over the places, not only in the ruins, but as human beings, you can witness what is the richness of this culture. I think it's a privilege to come and have a look to these areas. Just 2 weeks ago, I attended a ceremony to thank all the harvesting that is mainly citrus fruits around this time, and all the indigenous peoples were making all kind of rituals and celebrations to thank Mother Nature for all what we received for our sustainability. As part of all what you will be able to see if you come to visit us, it's this human testimony, this culture that is very much alive. And we also, as Bitcoiners, are trying to promote a kind of safety net for self-sustainability. We are inviting people to come and create their own niche here and try to see how you can really come back to our roots as human beings, be in touch with earth, not just to grab from the supermarkets, and learn how to cultivate. And sometimes in this land is just to observe, because if you drop a seed, for instance, of watermelon, all of a sudden you will have a watermelon. And it just, you don't need even to make an effort. So it's just to allow nature to be there, but not to destroy it and not to kill the efforts of our environment to remain alive. And it's I won't go further. Maybe throughout our conversation, I will invite you to check different things. I think Bitcoin has the opportunity to support all what are the remnants of human civilization, because I think we're about losing our existence. But I mean, it's all these uh, fiat society that it's leading us to destroy everything, just that money is the most important. And we forget the essence of our presence here on earth. So I would love to invite you to come and witness all this and to be together again. And Bitcoin is for us an opportunity, really, to invite other human beings, especially unbanked people in our situation that have been completely excluded from this financial world, but they continue to exist. And Bitcoin is the opportunity for support these wonderful efforts to keep alive Mother Earth. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Mercedes. I'm so glad you're here. And I want us, I could talk to you guys for 10 hours. And Amanda, I'm going to give you the mic in 2 secs, but I'll probably interview you guys each individually at some point, and we'll talk about this event, and we'll talk about the cohesion of women and why this is such an important event that you are doing. Okay. Um, and I'm just so grateful. So Amanda, let's let the audience know, who you are, how you got into Bitcoin, and, we'll go deeper into the event, and the women's work that everybody's up to.
I'll just do a Coles Notes version. I got into Bitcoin out of necessity because I'm from Canada. I left my home country. I had a lot of challenges reaching my money. When I did, it was taxed heavily because I was out of country. So for me, Bitcoin was a necessity. I didn't understand it. I was in it because it worked for me. And later on, after I read the white paper and after I started delving a little bit deeper, I realized that Bitcoin is more than just a currency. It's actually for humanity. However, I found that in a lot of the social spaces or in a lot of the places that we're exposed to as Bitcoin women, it's often more about technology, currency, these kinds of things, and not so much about what we see as women, as in, a vehicle changing humanity. And Mercedes said just a second ago, losing our existence. When we started talking about us women coming together, because this is our goal here in Bitcoin Yucatan, and with Mercedes leading it, is women is our entry point. So, with Tali saying, well, I want to have a retreat, this is what our focus is on women.
Well, hold on, Amanda, hold on 1 second. Are you, Tali and Mercedes, are you hearing her? She's a little glitchy to me.
Yeah, it's a little glitchy.
Yeah,
It's a little glitchy?
Yeah.
I'll come
Okay.
closer. Is this okay?
Keep going. Just talk right.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes, because it's
So,
a little choppy.
I relocated to Mexico. I've been here. Mercedes and I have more members on our team.
No. Yeah, it's glitchy. Hold on, Amanda. It's just, I don't know if that's your internet connection.
Do you want me to sign out and come back
Yeah,
in?
you're like kind of delayed and a little glitchy. So see if there's anything open that you can close and get a faster connection, perhaps. And then we'll just give it a sec. But yeah, you're kind of glitchy and delayed. So, but because I want to hear what you're saying, because it's important. Okay, yeah, play around for a second, then we'll get Tali and Mercedes going. Okay, so coming back in touch with the land, that's a big opportunity that I think a lot of us forget. And we think, oh, we're just going to take a vitamin or go do yoga or meditate for 2 seconds, and now I'm back to my power. And really, what you guys are doing and bringing people into the nature, into the local community, and back into themselves is very, very important. And I think it's overlooked, and it's a cause for unhealthiness when we're so disconnected from nature and from each other. And the fact that Bitcoin is a glue that's bringing us all together, and obviously we're women and whatnot. So how did you guys come up with, like, I know Tali and Amanda, you guys were brainstorming, and when I saw you in El Salvador, I was like, I was just thinking about this on the plane, and you guys are doing it. And I'm like, holy cow, it's like we're getting the download. And, how did this come about where you're like, yep, we need to bring the women together and do a retreat?
Is that for me or?
I think so. Yeah. Because you're still a little. Shoot. Amanda, I'm going to invite, why don't you disconnect and jump back on and see what happens? Yeah. Just because. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Okay, so Tali, yeah, let's rock. How did you guys come up?
Yeah, so you talk about the download, which I think is a really interesting way of describing it because honestly, when I started thinking about getting women together, I just wanted them in the same house. I just
Mhm.
wanted us to be, stuck in the same space and just really interacting with each other, doing sharing circles, stretching, meditating together, and just being kind of raw with each other and not necessarily all put together and kind of the way that we do when we go to a conference, you're dressed properly and you've got your mask on and you're saying all the right things. But when you're forced in the same house and you're using the same bathroom, it's like, you see each other without the makeup. And that's the kind of connection I think we really need
Yeah.
between women. And so in my head, the first thought that came to my mind was just that I wanted everybody in the same place. And as I put the feelers out and I was looking at different resorts and different options, somehow Amanda just her name popped up. It was introduced by someone I had interviewed before, and she started talking about Merida. And the more she talked, like there was more download in my head. I could just see pictures just flashing in my brain. And it was like she was talking about the beach. And I'm like, yes, that's like you're absorbing the earth's energy. And then she was talking about the Mayan ruins and the magic that was left there and the energy that's palpable that you can feel. Like, yes, that's what we need. And then she was talking about the cenotes where you go to cleanse. I'm like, yes, we need cleansing. And then she was talking about like the copal ceremony and the what's the other one? The smudging ceremony. And then we were at one point talking about the sweat lodge. I'm like, yes, we need all of that. We need all of that. And so it just came together so beautifully. And it was just the perfect location. And they have such a wonderful effort there already doing outreach. They have a circular economy that they're working to establish, and Mercedes working with the Mayan women. It was just like it was perfect, and it just all the pieces fell into place.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And so, Amanda, let's hear you now. And you look
Can you
great.
hear me now?
I,
How are
I,
we?
you're beautiful and you sound great. So
I know our angle is funny. We're on my phone now,
that's
but
okay, but it's
do
great.
I
You're
go back to intro?
Yeah, just let's yeah. So recapping, you needed to have you did Bitcoin out of necessity,
Okay.
and you started realizing it was
Yes,
for
I did.
humanity and
I
not
did
just
Bitcoin out of
yeah.
necessity because I left my
Mhm.
country and trying to get my own money while living in Indonesia. And I was from Canada. I am from Canada. And it was really a challenge. So that's why I moved into Bitcoin, but I didn't quite understand it. I just knew that it worked for me. It was later on that I realized that Bitcoin was something that could be huge for humanity. However, I
Mhm.
found it difficult to live a Bitcoin standard or just to start a Bitcoin life over there. And
Mhm.
things were really starting to ramp up here, Central and South America, especially like Después Bukele, right? And so I relocated back here, co-founded Big Casa Homes. We're a real estate Bitcoin brokerage with Daniel, the son of Mercedes, actually. And
Oh, cool.
we're working hard to grow our Bitcoin community here. And honestly, when Tali was saying, this is what I want to do, it just resonated so much here because this is how we live. I know Mercedes lives a very natural life. They live on a self-sustainable farm. I know, like she said, like my compost grows green peppers and tomatoes. Like these are the things that we live here. And I think with a lot of Bitcoiners that are in the North, I struggled with this in the past, is that Mercedes said it when she was introducing herself, is that people are losing their existence. So I think with us women coming together, we can find that again and connect with each other, connect with ourselves, away from the zeros and ones and binary, and just be people again so that we can come together and do big things. So,
I love it.
mhm.
I'm so excited. Like, okay, let's keep diving. And so we were talking, Tali was saying about how you guys came up with the idea and how it was getting the downloads. I want to ask you, Mercedes, like with the local women, are any of them are you guys going to do any integration and have an opportunity for the women who are on the retreat to meet some of the local women?
Well, I think what it's important to emphasize is that when you are talking about Bitcoin, we need to work on some kind of awareness. Like, I think we are dissociated when we go with the Bitcoiners. Everybody is aware, they are at the level of understanding that they can grasp everything and they can decode all this very complex Bitcoin world that is mostly for women inaccessible.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us might be very privileged to understand and decode. I myself am unable, just because, as Amanda said, my son Daniel is into it. So whenever I am in trouble, I go and ask him. But most of the vast majority of women cannot grasp this very crucial information. And I would say this next level of civilization. And if we work hard, it seems to me that at least we need to start with sensitization at the grass layer of society. And then from that, we need to work very much on the level of awareness that people are able to grasp. Like, for instance, Michael Saylor talking about history of money, to say some example. Well, it's important that people understand how relevant money is in terms of interacting and connecting as society. From there, I think at level of Bitcoiners, we have to move to a kind of acceptance. So it are kind of levels or layers of awareness, from sensitization to understanding what Bitcoin is about, what it's going to mean historically for humanity, and then we have to move to acceptance. And I think women are ready to accept, especially unbanked women. That's why I started to work with them. And so we need a strategy, because we have to move at the end from acceptance to adoption. And that's the real challenge, because the Bitcoiners is especially a men community, that they are already at the level of adoption, and they are profiting, I think, and benefiting from this adoption. But I think the vast majority of women are excluded from this opportunity, because, as usual in history, we don't have the level of understanding to benefit from this opportunity in time. So I have dedicated my life to women's health,
Mm-hmm.
and I work with very marginal, vulnerable women. I always saw, even I work in, for instance, work situation. I have worked in over 50 countries. So
Wow.
when I was in countries in war situation like Angola or Mozambique, I could see, and you can see it in Russia, and you could be repeating all the time the same tendency. Women are the one who appear and show up when men have destroyed everything. Yes, yeah, because they arrive with all this armament, and my work was to build and rebuild basic health centers, health education, for instance. They destroy everything, and are women the ones who again start from scratch and start to build again. So I think it, for me, Bitcoin is the opportunity not to wait until men destroys everything again, but because they are at the level of awareness where they have moved out consciously from the fiat economy, now they have to see the opportunity to involve and include women. So I think with women, and you can see it in many traditions, the Islamic tradition, the Buddhist tradition, the Christian tradition, women are considered spiritually the most important element in society,
Hmm.
because we try to rescue back all kind of virtues that we have in this feminine body. So I think we have to gather together to brainstorm what is really our contribution to this Bitcoin opportunity that we have in history, because we have a role to play. So we have to define. We are loving people, we care about the earth, we care about the children, we care about many other things that men sometimes, if they are sensitized, can be aware of. But we tend, by nature, biologically, we're designed to do that. So we have to take advantage of that. That, I think, is an opportunity to come together and brainstorm together what is our role to play in this Bitcoin opportunity in history.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And it is unfortunate. I mean, we are the creators, and the yin and the yang, the masculine are I mean, they build stuff, but unfortunately they bam bam and smash things down too. Um, so I'm just curious, like, we haven't had a women's Bitcoin conference yet. I think we need one. And I think we need one to be global and virtual. And, because like a lot of people, of course, would love to come to a wellness retreat. A lot of people aren't going to go to a massive Bitcoin conference with, mostly men because they might be intimidated and they're like, I'm not a crypto techno person. What do I do? La la la, and all the things that they think could be a barrier for participation. And so I think I like the idea of doing a global virtual women's event. We can do something in person and have these like little mini pods happening at the same time. And then, creating content to share and translate it into different languages so that women feel like it's accessible to them, whether they're in, wherever they might be on the planet. And I think it's time, ladies. I really do. Like, you guys are obviously leading the charge here with this wonderful retreat. Um, and I hope that it sparks some more interest to bring something even bigger forward. Because, we're doing like the Bitcoin brunches with Natalie and at the conferences. But if you're not at a conference, you're not going to have access to this, And so we have to bring it to other people in a way that feels inviting and welcoming, because obviously Bitcoin is for everyone, but everyone still doesn't have the awareness around. It's not just something that's a number go up for a certain segment of people. It's for everybody, and it's for peace, and it's for the planet, and it's for the kids. And so I really applaud what you are doing and launching and lighting the fire for all of us. Like, you guys are getting me more lit up. I'm lit up. Um, um, and Mercedes, you were mentioning the women. There's so many women. There's 1.7 billion people are unbanked on the earth right now, and I don't know what percentage that is of women. Do you, in your experience, with your work in all of these countries, are people unbanked simply because they're not allowed to be banked and because of the government regulations or the bank regulations? Are they not banked because of religious reasons and women can't have property? Are they not banked because it's too far away to go to a bank? Like, what are the big obstacles? Not that we want people to be banked. We want to encourage be your own bank with Bitcoin. What is the biggest obstacles that you've seen? Why are women not banked and participating
I
in
think
this
it's because
system?
there are many parallel economies, I would say. For
Mhm.
instance, you have what is called the gray economy. And like, for instance, the drug dealers in Mexico, to put an example, well, they don't need the financial world. We all
Mhm.
are controlled because we potentially can launder money. We're trapped by all those rules and regulations, but the real ones who are laundering money, they are completely out of this financial system. They are not
Mm.
caught up. In Mexico, they continue to profit from that. So I think what is happening in the population, especially the marginalized societies, and especially the rural economies here in throughout Latin America, not only in Mexico, you will find that they don't have they cannot decode that financial world. But having said that, we are in the same position because I was just following a person. He's an American guy who was in this very high level of financial world, and he retired in Sweden and put a farm. And then he just made a video. I'll send it to you later because it
Okay.
escapes my mind. But what is shocking is he describes how the international central banks have been creating rules and regulations that we are completely out of our control. I mean, we are in the financial world, but we don't have a financial control over
Yeah.
those rules and regulations. So we are all trapped in that. And sometimes I think it's better the population that is marginalized from that financial world, because now we are all exposed that the government has our accounts, can even freeze our accounts, as we
Yeah.
saw in Canada. So we are banked, but I don't see the benefit of that because we don't even know the law and rules and regulations that I was studying how many in the last 5 years. It's just unbelievable the laws and regulations that central banks globally have created To give you an example, if a bank goes broke, then your money is lost because they don't have any obligation to you because the money belonged to the bank. But if you are in debt to the bank, even if they broke, they continue to follow you. So and you are accountable to them. And all of us are submitted to those regulations and laws, and we can do nothing. Once we deposit the money, the central banks have regulated that that money is not yours any longer. So all that kind of regulations that we are unaware of it is just, I feel, is as dangerous as being unbanked. But having said that, unbanked people here, they don't feel the regulations that the banks require from you. They cannot provide any of the prerequisites to open a bank account. But the women are more in a disadvantage because women don't have usually all the papers required by the bank. Women here work hard, but you can never prove in a statement your income monthly, for instance.
Got
That
it.
in itself is an impediment. At the same time, parallel, and that's why I think we need a strategy for women, because at the same time, women are ready to not only to accept but to adopt Bitcoin because they need it. They badly need it.
They
They need
badly need
to
it.
move their money around. They, for instance, here in Mexico, women produce all kind of things. Even if they are unemployed in formal terms, they are always employed and working hard. But they don't know, for instance, where to hide their money, how to use their money. I worked many, many years in domestic violence. And so in that, you can see that women cannot live because even if they are the providers of the family, they cannot live with their money. They don't know where to store the money. They don't have any financial education that help them to be able to save their money so that they can live out of this abusive relationship.
Yeah,
That's
this
one
is
example.
it's so important. After this interview, I'm going to have another live stream with Bitcoin Kendall in talking about domestic violence in Bitcoin, and she's going to be talking about how she left an abusive relationship and is now helping others. It's There's so many things that we don't understand how money influences our behavior, and causes us to feel trapped in a slave type position. And so obviously the fiat system, as we're learning, is that it's a slave system on many levels. Um, so Tali, let's keep. I'm going to just keep going round robin with everybody here, and because I want everybody to be able to just keep sharing. I mean, like I said, I can talk with you guys for 10 hours, and I wish I can in person soon. um, Tali, what's been your experience? You're a homeschooler. You've homeschooled 4 kids. You have an MBA from Yale, and you've chosen to be, what I think is the most important job as a mom and raising your children. Um, what's been your experience with your kids and Bitcoin and being a homeschooler? And how has it impacted you as a mother and a woman, and how has it impacted your relationship with your kids?
So Scott and I didn't come across Bitcoin until we were almost done with homeschooling,
Okay.
unfortunately. So we were very, very intentional from the time the kids were very little to teach them how money works according to what we understood it to work.
Mm.
And so we started playing cash flow, that game by Rich Dad Poor Dad with the kids from the time they were very little. And it was once a month and it was with jelly beans. And they know very well what this financial statement looks like. What is the doodad? How do you get out of the rat race? They know about all of that.
Love it.
I talked to them about the tax structure of, being a W-2 employee versus a 1099 versus an investor, like a in that what's it called, that background investor and an active investor, all of those things. They know all of those things, but we didn't know Bitcoin. So
Wow.
yes. So when we came into the Bitcoin space and the curtain was lifted for Scott and I, we're like, what in the world? We have been living this big lie. So now we're going to tell the kids, but we were so intentional instilling all of those other things in them. And they're at the age, they're late teens when they start to question, what parents know and versus what they know. They're like,
Yeah.
Mom and Dad, you guys are being scammed. So
No way.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for us to try to orange pill them, but I wanna say that 2 things. One is, so I have 2 girls, 2 boys. My oldest daughter was my editor for my podcast in the beginning.
Nice.
And in the beginning, before she started helping me edit the podcast, we would talk to her about putting, her summer income into Bitcoin. She'd be like, "No, no, I don't know. I don't have enough. I don't understand." But after she edited so many women's stories about how they came into Bitcoin, why they came into Bitcoin, and why it's important, she suddenly said, "How can I not believe in Bitcoin when all of these women are talking about it?" And the best part about it is that they're all different women. They all come from different backgrounds. They come to Bitcoin for different reasons. They're different
Mhm.
age, they're different culture, they're different whatever, right? Different professional levels of education, etc. But they all have their own reason to come to a common solution for their various problems, which were all, as we all know, caused by the fiat system.
Mhm.
So I was so glad that the first person that I know of that was orange pilled by Orange Hatter was my daughter. That was
Yeah,
very cool.
dude.
That was very cool. Other daughter took some convincing, but she read the book that orange pilled me after I played Scott's game, and it's the Bitcoin Hard Money You Can't F With. She read that book, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, mom, can you please help me move some of my money into Bitcoin?" So I'm like, "Yes, I can."
I can.
Yeah, so it's a challenge because there's so much unlearning that needs to happen for all of,
Totally.
and even for my own kids, and I was the ultimate authority in the house, right? I was mom, I was principal, I was
Oh my
guidance counselor, I was
God.
nurse, I was everything. I was the ultimate authority at home. Scott was working, but I couldn't go to them and say, "Hey, forget everything I told you. Believe in Bitcoin."
Let me I wanna pull on that thread a little bit, Tali, because I think this is such an interesting issue, right? Because whether um, uh, you're frozen, Amanda. Whether you are a man, a woman, it doesn't matter. But like the ego that comes in with everything, whether you're a hedge fund guy, whether you're a grandma, it doesn't matter. But like when we go down a certain path in life, when we learn all this stuff, and then all of a sudden we get presented with this whole new paradigm, not just a tiny little dose of information, but it's a new paradigm shift.
Yeah.
You're like, whoa, wait a minute. And it's there's so much resistance, that I think a lot of folks go through and we struggle. And that's why we see so much FUD. And that's why we see so many people like, and and I think we should all be hole pokers at heart. Like we want to poke holes in things and not just accept them at face value. But we also like, once you start seeing the truth, it's like, oh man, like
Mhm,
what else don't I know?
mhm,
What other things in my worldview must get shattered so that I can rebuild this new thing, and so that ego death must happen in order to accept Bitcoin as an adult. If you're a child and you're learning Bitcoin from the ground up, like the kids in Me Premier Bitcoin and other places, you're not, you can compare it to the fiat system, but you understand that Bitcoin is this superior way to store wealth and transfer wealth. And so that must have been an interesting experience for you from your ego, especially then it's just like,
It
oh
is.
gosh, am I going to lose my credibility? What else, what was that like for you?
Man. Well, it's hard as a parent when your kids start challenging your authority anyway, when they
Mhm.
when they get into their late teens, or maybe for some people it's early teens, they're like, "Wait, wait, who am I?" And in order for them to decipher who they are and really become crystal clear about their own identity, they have to separate themselves
Totally.
from mom and dad. And in that separation, the mom and dad are like, "Whoa, my babies, what is going on?" So I'm experiencing that at the same time that I'm trying to tell them about Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
So I'm giving myself I'm giving myself a lot of grace in, basically I'm telling myself that it's just part of the journey that they have to walk themselves, because it took me this long to be exposed to this. I knew about Bitcoin when nobody was talking about it. Like Scott and I came across it, bought a book, couldn't understand it, put it down. But we knew it was going on. And it
Yeah.
took us after that, what, like 12 years before we picked it back up again. It was
Whoa.
because we had nobody to ask questions to. And it was our timing, it was our journey. And I have to respect that my kids will have their own journey to walk, whether it is a journey into adulthood or a journey into Bitcoin. So I
Sure.
have to give them that room. So I have to kind of back off and go, God's got this. You know, they're loved more by God than even myself. So it's gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Just step back and just see how it happens.
I know I always I talk about, and I didn't come up with this term, one of my teachers did, but he was like, who are you to interfere with someone else's spiritual curriculum?
Yes.
And I think about God, spirit, universe, whatever term we all love to use. Like, I know, and as a mother, we're all mothers here on this panel. We want to, like, protect, because that's what you do in the first years of their life, and then we
Yep.
have to keep going more and more and wide, and just keep. Then we always transfer the trust and faith to God, but we also, as mothers, we're caregivers, and that's our job, and so it's like, don't die the first 5 years. It's like, we want to make sure the kids don't put their fingers in the thing and fall off and do the whole thing, and then we have to let them do their falling and let them do their own expansion and research. So just as they enter a new uh, chapter of growth, we do too as
Yes.
parents, and we're like,
Yes.
oh, okay, now this isn't appropriate anymore. And, so it's
Yeah.
interesting to think of that too with the financial world and Bitcoin. So I love hearing that. And I, I do think I don't see enough moms in Bitcoin. I would love to see some more mothers understanding, because obviously we make so many decisions in our families, um,
Yeah.
all across the world, and so it would be really, I think, super powerful to see more moms. I'm not sure what happened to our girls. So,
Yeah. Me either.
oh, good. There's Mercedes.
Well, one of the
Um,
things that I wanted to just mention is that, this morning I was writing in my journal and just kind of reflecting on the things that I've learned just even this past week. And what
mhm,
I realized that was really loud and clear was that the more we try to solve problems for our kids, the more we're telling them, in effect, I don't think you can take care of yourself. And when you rob them of that, their
mhm.
personal power, that's actually more harmful than inviting them into the Bitcoin space. So I have to really intentionally tell myself and remind myself to step back and give them that space to, like what you said, walk their own spiritual curriculum. And
Mhm.
money is energy. Money is just as spiritual as everything else. It's just as spiritual as nature and the food that you put into your body and everything else. So giving them that space and trusting that they will be okay. That
Yeah.
the information is out there. Any moment, I interviewed someone on my podcast, this is months ago. She said, even the last person who comes into Bitcoin, the the very, very last person who enters the Bitcoin space can still benefit from this ecosystem. And if we really believe that, then it's gonna be okay. We do our part, they do their part. Yeah.
I love it. I agree very much. Wow. And Mercedes, what's it been like for you? I mean, obviously you and Daniel are such two wonderful humans in the world, like from a mother-son perspective, and being Bitcoiners and working on missions together. Like, how's Bitcoin transformed your relationship as a mother and son?
Well, I think it has reversed the role really, because I have a daughter as well, and
Okay.
my daughter is older than Daniel, and
Is she a Bitcoiner?
she's, yeah, totally. But
Totally cool.
yeah, because Daniel has converted us. He started to do all of this work, but that's what I say. It was reverse the role, because there
Mm.
was. I mean, you go from, well, my daughter has 50 years old, so you go from pointing out down, as you were saying, well, to keep them alive, and then to kind of guide them until you start to say stop doing that, but they are much taller than you are. And then you realize that, as you also said, Valerie, you have to adjust your role. And once I kind of, well, we have the privilege to grow in many, many countries. And my children learn to speak Dutch, Danish, English, and French, because they were moving around also culturally.
Mhm.
And and Spanish, of course, because they were born in Mexico. But what I think is it was very solid after being exposed to all these variety of cultures, that you have to choose your programming, because culture actually programs you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So then, once they were aware of that, I think it's a different story, because we became a team. It's not that I was the mother, because they were able to decode the underground in London faster than I was, for instance,
Mm.
or it's about decoding different cultures in different ways. And that has been my role, to teach poor women how to decode the health system, because it's very complex, as it is the financial system as well. So in this situation, they have been witnessing, because my work has been always involving women, very extremely poor women, in a way that they, first of all, they regain their confidence,
Mhm.
because usually very poor women have a very low self-esteem,
Mhm.
and that you have to empower them and help them to regain that. So to have a stand in society and a stand in a relationship and rescue back themselves, really. So my children, because I was going with them as kind of a single mother, to expose them to all these different variety of economic strata, then they learn to decode very fast the system. And Daniel, all of a sudden, he came back after studying a lot and mingling a lot with the Bitcoiners, to say, we have to become Bitcoiners. There's no other choice. And we trust very much each other. So, and then, of course, he asked me to study very hard. And I had to go through all the interviews of all kind of people. Some of them to me were, I was a bit reluctant, because it was kind of, for me, very macho culture sometimes. Even the
Mhm.
English users were very macho like. And I thought, well, this is not a culture that I want to join, because I didn't see any kind of difference between all what I have seen as alternatives,
Mm.
as this is the thing in society. So I have to study a lot until I realized, yes, this is a mathematical model that is out of control of one single person, one single group, a government. And to me, that was very clear since the very beginning. But the difficult part for me was the Bitcoin community as such. They were very misled by many of the fiat standards, I would say.
Mm.
Even the women, when I was in, well, these different Bitcoin companies are using women in the same way that the fiat economy is using it. In El
Interesting.
Salvador, I went to a gathering, where I was invited to a gathering. Well, the girls were placed there by this Bitcoin company as commodities, as very sophisticated kind of prostitutes. And it's very sad. It's very sad that they go again to the same. We are so distorted in our minds that we
Mm.
tend to use these fiat symbols again. And TV presenters, and I mean, the Bitcoin companies are using that, and are manipulating all these masculine tendencies, which I'm very opposed, because I mean, over 50 years I've been working with women. I cannot tolerate that. It's like very humiliating as a woman. So then
Wow.
I thought, how can I make a difference? How can I have a presence there? And then Daniel told me, because your experience, you can go on, because he saw women are ready. Women, for instance, if you see the statistics, at least throughout Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia, the tendency is female single mothers are more and more the providers of the households.
Mhm.
Which means it's an opportunity, but they just don't have the financial education. Because in the educational system, there's no financial education.
It
So,
isn't that insane? Like, these kids learn about stuff that is so ridiculous, and then I'm like, why weren't
yeah,
they learning financial literacy? And now that we as Bitcoiners understand the new levels of financial literacy that we need, I think there's a company, it's BSTEM. Are you guys familiar with them? Like Tally, you know them? And so I saw their stuff at Swan and or at the Pacific Bitcoin. We need to get more financial literacy, the
yeah.
new modern financial literacy, in the hands of the mothers, in the hands of the kids, in the hands of the communities. And I think that's such an important point, because it just leads to distress, and it leads to physical, mental, spiritual ruin, if we're not empowered financially. And a lot of times, I know I've been a part of, a lot of the spiritual communities and the healers and the musicians and the environmentalists and all. And we're all just like, let's just drop some acid and kumbaya and everything's going to be great. And I'm like, yes. And you still need to understand this other layer down here, which is money. And I was naive for many, many years, thinking that if we just help uplift everyone's consciousness and connect them back to each other and God and nature, we're going to be okay. We do need to do all of that. And we need to have the sound money that supports it. Otherwise, we're just going to be trying to build on this cesspool called the fiat system,
Yeah.
that is very dangerous. And so, what do you guys think? I mean, do you think it's time that I'm serious about putting together a global women's conference for Bitcoin? And
Well, I just want to say that as you were talking, what I want to kind of echo what Mercedes said, which is as human beings, we have this tendency to bring one paradigm into a new thing,
mhm,
or it's a new tool. So Bitcoin is a new monetary tool versus the fiat dollars. But if you bring the same paradigm over, then you're just going to recreate the same thing again. Just
right,
like,
right, right,
Bitcoin was created peer to peer. And now suddenly we're looking at these, ETFs coming in, the big companies are coming in, and God knows what's going to happen with financial engineering using Bitcoin as a base.
right.
So one of the things that I want to just caveat when we go and talk to women, and my work is not with marginalized women like Mercedes is working. My goal is to reach American moms. That they
Cool.
are my target, and
Nice.
because they have power. But if we if they are grinding daily, and for that
Mhm,
reason they don't have the time or the energy to
right,
study up this new tool that we have, then if we just say, hey, look at Bitcoin, then they will bring their fear-based expectations and paradigm, everything that came with the fiat system over to the Bitcoin side. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're always being challenged by people looking at Bitcoin with the numbers go up mentality, especially in America, because
mhm,
they're bringing the same paradigm over. They're not looking at it as a brand new tool. And so to to get this movement going, I keep seeing it in my head that it's going to have to be a living room kind of teaching moment.
yeah,
It's going to have to be women sharing Bitcoin with 3, 4, 5 friends in her living room. It's an environment of trust. It's a, like, um, shameless question and answer kind of session, right? Because if we go into a big conference and you have a question, you'd be like, I can't ask that. That's really stupid.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you're just with close friends, just like, the mastermind group that we have, we can say stuff that are so intimate to us that we wouldn't be able to really share openly other places. But those are the answers that need to be, or the questions that need to be asked, and answered. So in my head, instead of seeing a global, like a big huge conference thing, one of the reasons why I want to direct people to the retreat is because I feel like we all have to take up the torch. So it's not going to be 10,000
mhm,
people coming to a conference and looking at 10 people sitting on stage answering everybody's questions. Like, no, every single person there has to carry a torch,
yeah,
and you can't have that kind of giving spirit if you're running out empty yourself. That's
totally.
that's why the retreat is important, because you got to fill your cup first, and then you can go spread the good news. So,
It's so true. And then what you had said previously, Tali, just and I stress this a lot when I talk, it's like the system is designed to keep people depleted and exhausted. And
mhm.
so that they don't have enough energy to question what is going on, and that they don't have enough energy and resources to dig deeper and then crack away at the lies, which is the system. And so that's something that needs to be addressed too, because obviously we have all the tools, we have everything available, but it's like if you're too at the end of the day because you work two jobs and you got to deal with the kid and he threw up on you and all that, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you're not going to sit and go read Seyfedin's book and listen to Michael Saylor or learn and go play with a treasure. You're like, and so how can we create something that's nourishing but still laser beam impactful and
Mhm.
simple, so it's easy to digest. You don't feel like, oh God, I got to learn cryptography now. It's like, no, here's little, teach me like I'm a third grader. Like that's how I like to learn, even though I like complex stuff. Like, how do you synthesize something down to the simplest form so that everybody can feel confident digesting one step? Oh, cool, I got this. Now we go to the next step, next step, next step. Um,
Right.
and I love the idea of the living rooms. I think it needs all of these approaches. I think every part of these approach, there's no wrong way to do it. I think every tentacle needs to get,
Yes.
woven into this tapestry. And
Right.
so, um, what do you guys see like as action steps that we can take and the audience can take, in addition to obviously attending events, going to a local meetup, trying to find, answers to some of our questions? Like, how can we as Bitcoin women take the next step to help other, Bitcoin women come forward and not feel excluded or, like, oh, that's not for me. And then knowing what you knew about your journeys when you like looked at the book and you're like, I don't get it. And then you kind of put it away. Obviously we're 12 years later now, Bitcoin's, a whole different animal. Um, how do you think we can do, what do you think some good next steps are for people who are listening and for all of us here on this show right now?
Uh, I'll just answer quickly for myself. So I started a Orange Hatter reading group, and we are going very, very slowly
Mhm.
over Broken Money by Lynn Alden.
No
And
way.
yeah, and it's not necessarily the content of the book that's the most important. It's a safe space. It's for women, and they can
Mhm.
come in and ask any question they want.
Oh,
So
this is great.
if I could do it, then somebody else could do it, and somebody else can do it, somebody else can do it. And it doesn't have to be every week. I do it every week because I treasure the FaceTime, but it could be once a month. But it's just they don't have to travel. All they have to do is call in. So you don't
Mhm.
have the issue with babysitters. It's very small and intimate. You can ask any questions you want. It's very free form. So we talk about current events, we talk about technology, we talk about personal stuff. Spend a lot of time talking about health. It's just like you're gaining trust with
Yeah.
these women who are looking for answers. And before they will ask you a sensitive question, like something to do with your personal finance, they have to trust you first. Otherwise, they're going to stay very general. And so that's
Mhm.
one thing that's very easy to do. You don't even have to set up a meetup. You can just get a few ladies together and go, hey, do you want to hop on any kind of platform at all? It could be Telegram, it could be Facebook, it could be anything. Just an informal, any kind of excuse to come together. So it could be a book, like we were talking about, or it can be anything.
I love
So
it. I think that's such a good idea. And I know a lot of women are not on Twitter because of just it's like a little aggressive. And I know they spend a little bit more time on Instagram or Facebook, um, or LinkedIn. Obviously, a lot of business women are there. So I think that's a great idea. What about you, Mercedes? What do you think is a good, action step that we can think about as women Bitcoiners to help each other out?
Number one, to attend the retreat in Yucatan.
there you
Yay!
go. Yes.
No, actually, that would be, in my mind, that's one of the reasons why this meeting in Yucatan would be very important, because it's just brainstorming together and getting to know each other, and the kind of the opportunities that we have brainstorming together to enter this community of Bitcoin. Because to me, it's not kind of meeting us separately, because it's better to be part of the large audience. But at the same time, we get diluted in these conferences. On the one hand, because are mainly uh, organized by big companies, and on the second hand, they have their own agendas,
Yeah.
and they have their own priorities as well. So women's priorities, that's what I would like to emphasize, are different. We have different needs, and this Bitcoin opportunity means something different to us. Financial freedom is essential for women because they have been marginal to this fiat economy. So therefore, it's very important. But I see also that, for instance, uh, in the conference, the latest one in El Salvador, they presented, for instance, the Peruvian NGO, and
Mhm.
and I thought it was beautiful. But at the same time, I mean, I've been working in development over 50 years, and although I agree with these guys, I've been amuse in terms of the, yes, is the misery industry, the one
Misery.
that creates this development industry. At the same time, they started to finance something that to me is just nonsense, because now they are paying Bitcoin to the poor mothers, so that the poor mothers pay the teachers this in Bitcoin. It's on the one hand kind of imposing, because you are not creating any awareness, because you are giving away this Bitcoin
Hmm.
money. And then on the other hand, is like, what is going to happen when these mothers don't get this Bitcoin externally? To me, they have to be able to create their own.
Yeah.
And,
Mhm.
and another distortion is, why do you pay in Bitcoin the teachers? Should be provided, and it is by law in all Latin American societies, education is for free. So then why do you create this intervention where you have to pay the teachers? Because now the teachers might not be attending to teach the poor children when they are not paid. What is going to happen when no one is there to provide this Bitcoin? You see? But they
Mhm.
don't question that because they don't know anything about development. Some very well intended guys donated money for this project, but it's a total distortion in terms of artificially created the use of Bitcoin. It has
Mm.
to come out of the adoption of people. And adoption is a very different, it seems to me, level to acceptance. And we
Mm.
are all working at acceptance level, which isn't a step forward. But what about adoption? For me, adoption is, it will come for women, for all kind of women, because women are ready to receive it. It's just we need to work in terms of sensitization, because they have to put together the bridge between their needs and the opportunity of Bitcoin, and the opportunity that Bitcoin is bringing to our societies and to our economy. So to me, is working, but seriously, on working with women on increasing is kind of a financial a digital financial education, to put it more precisely. And within digital financial education, we have to make an effort to simplify Bitcoin. There are many interesting even apps saying that, but we still, at least for working with the women in the population, they still need some support. That's what I'm doing to bridge this technology, because most of them now they have, for instance, smartphones, so
Hmm.
they download different applications they can use, but sometimes they don't have credit for their phone, for instance,
Right.
or they don't have electricity in their communities. So different stories. Women in the United States, I would say the average, they would have the means, the resources, but still they need a lot. Sometimes they need somehow what you were describing, Tal, Tali, with this a kind of book club,
Yeah.
because it's you need this. And I think women, we are more private. We need some niches
Yeah.
to be able to present ourselves, to
Mhm.
be able to talk more personally. And although Bitcoin might seem another very distant knowledge, it's crucial because the money is our survival. And if you present to them an opportunity and a strategy for how to adopt Bitcoin, they will do it because they
Mhm.
are ready. The difference, for instance, women in Sweden, if I talk to them, they don't feel the need, because Scandinavian women, I've lived many years in Scandinavia. Well, they think it's a scam. Why? Because they have everything in the fiat economy. They
Hmm.
don't feel the urgent need. In societies in Latin America, the urgent need is there.
Yeah.
In some groups in United States, the urgent need is there because you see how politics is evolving, you see how economy is evolving. So people are starting to have a different level of consciousness. And this different level of awareness implies adoption. I think for the time being, we need to work hard, but creating these new opportunities, little small spaces, social spaces where women gather, where they
Mhm.
think together. And I'm thinking also we can invite men because they are the ones who have the knowledge. Very young
Mhm.
guys. For instance, I attended a conference in Mexico. I was invited in Mexico City. And they were very young, very, very young guys, like in their early 20s. And they were so kind to me. And they
Mhm.
wanted to really know because they don't have this memory, this in history of what has happened. And I was telling, be careful, because we might repeat the same mistakes that my generation repeated, because he got tripped. We think that history is going to invent it with us, but it's not. There have been many failures that we have to learn from. So to introduce Bitcoin to me is just to work with different layers of society. I think because of my experience, I'm ready to work with those most vulnerable people, non-bank people. But at the same time, I would like to work with the Bitcoiners and say, no, 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 please don't make interventions like donating Bitcoin to give to the mothers, to give to the teachers, because what is going to happen when there's no donor there? And that we have to help them also to think carefully inside of the Bitcoin conferences what they are doing, to
Yeah.
reflect, because that's our role, isn't it? We are much more attentive. We are, for instance, all the time looking at all the different things that are happening. I mean,
Mhm.
and I noticed, for instance, American uh, soldiers, for instance, have to learn multitasking. For women, is our nature.
Yeah.
So we have to take advantage of these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the first steps for reaching women is empowerment more than anything else. And it's not necessarily the knowledge that we're imparting. It's first of all awaken their sense of personal power, because if they
Mhm.
feel like a victim, it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin you throw at them, like Mercedes was saying.
Yeah.
The moment you leave, it's gone. It's like telling somebody to go win the lottery and it's going to solve all their problems. It's not,
It's not.
because they have to first change their own perception of who they are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's definitely an inside job and an outside job. Just because you have a tool doesn't mean you're going to build a sacred temple with it. It's just a tool. Like you
yeah.
still need to understand what to do with it from the inside and out. And I think that's something really we want to keep our eye on, to not just get like, yay, we've got the fix for everything. It does fix a lot of things, but then you still have to fix a bunch of other things too to make
Yes,
it
exactly.
actually functional and work. Um,
Yeah.
and I love what you said. This is so great, you guys. I really do. I want to invite each of you guys back on individually, and I want to go deeper into each of your stories and more of what you're doing with the projects at large. But like, this is obviously such a great retreat that you're putting together. You're empowering women. You're helping them connect. You're helping them recharge and rejuvenate. Um, this is such a great gift that you're giving to the ladies of Bitcoin and new ladies. Hopefully, that'd be great to get your first orange pill at the Orange Hatter retreat.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Oh my God, that would be such a cool thing, right?
Yeah.
But people can go to orangehatter.com/Yucatan, Yucatan, and you guys can check out what's going on with the retreat here. You can also, see what Tali's up to with her Orange Hatter. She's got a couple podcasts and the blog, and she's got Free Market Kids. Tali, I don't know how you do it. You got it. We all are octopuses, but I think you're like a double octopus. You got more arms to do this work, Mama.
I'm having
um,
so much fun. That's why it's possible.
it's really cool. I mean, it's like you want to do something that you just literally shoot out of bed in the morning for. And I know I'm that way with Bitcoin and adoption and creating a more peaceful planet with this peaceful. I consider this a peaceful money for all. So it's really great. What just a final last minute for each of you guys, and I'm just gonna Mercedes. Everybody can go follow you on Twitter at ut640. Is there any other places people should look for you to find out what you're doing?
Well, they could. I have Facebook, but I hardly have the time to go and look
Got
on
it.
those
Okay,
places.
cool.
I think this will be enough. Yes.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
And then obviously we love Amanda. We're sorry you dropped off with the technical difficulties, but you guys can follow Amanda at Bicasa Homes. She's got a great website if you're interested in real estate down in Yucatan. It's amazing. And then obviously we have got Tali with the Orange Hatter Pod. 1 minute for each of you. Closing thoughts for everybody. If you're listening to this and you're new, you're a woman, you're not a woman, it doesn't matter. Like what would you say to somebody who's on the fence who wants to take the next step for Bitcoin? Tali, you
Uh,
go first.
I'll go first. Go to Orange Hatter. I mean, I created that whole website just for you, and there are lots of different things you can do to get involved. There are going to be a lot of resources. Check out the podcast episodes. They're amazing. Every single guest is absolutely amazing, and find somebody you can relate to and see yourself in them, and just check it out. And
Awesome.
and of course, check out our retreat. It's going to be absolutely incredible. I'm so excited myself. So
And do you have on I think you have a mailing list people can jump on to? Is
yes.
that right? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
make sure you
Or
get
just
on the
email me
mailing list.
directly too. I mean, just email me directly. I answer every email myself, so because I really treasure the one-on-one contact. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. And Mercedes, last 1 minute. It's for everybody.
Well, I hope to see you here in March, and all the women who are ready to come and explore a bit what is Bitcoin at the ground level and all the barriers that we encounter and the opportunities also. And also some kind of, I would say, to develop some solidarity for women that are not as privileged as we are,
Yeah.
and that we can do always something for to empower these different women. And paradoxically, we will be empowered as well because they teach us lots and lots of dimensions that we don't know sometimes because we are in different worlds, so we
Yeah.
can learn from each other. So I'll be waiting for you here in March.
Yay. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. Thank you both so much for taking time to share your vision and your wisdom and your hearts with everybody here. I really, really admire you both so much, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you either on a deeper level and even doing some more action together. And who knows what's going to happen after all this synergy starts? Because
Exactly.
we're setting this is our intention experiment, Tally.
Yes,
We're
we are.
setting our
I'm
intentions
fleshing
for
that
good
out. I'm fleshing that out. Yeah.
I love it. Well, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. And thanks, Tali and Mercedes. And thank you, Amanda, wherever you are, sister. And you guys, make sure you guys go to orangehatter.com/Yucatan and you can get 10% off if you use code LOVEOH. And I'll check you guys out later. And you can go to djvaleriebeloved.com also for the show notes. And we'll have everything up there for you guys. So have an awesome day. Wishing you guys
Thank you,
blessings.
Valerie.
And
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
having us.
of course,
Thank
thanks so much
So
for doing this, and thanks for all the patience with the links and everything. All right, everybody, peace, love, and aloha. I'm going to end the stream.